Hi guys, Tugu here with a new video, and this video will be the class tuning changes for next week. Like I said, I was waiting for a soul shuffle tier list video, like an updated one, before, like after these changes. I do feel like a lot of these changes do change a lot of things on the tier list, although I'm not going to say it's game breaking like some people would do, but I think a lot of changes are going to hit on the right spot. But I'm going to discuss change by change. I'm going to show you what is changing, because some people read something, they don't know what it is, and they are panicking. So let's talk right away currently. So Death Knights, Aberrus class set bonus, that is the season 2 set bonus. Nobody's going to play that in PvP, so it doesn't matter if it's going to get nerfed or not, it just gets nerfed for PvE and PvP, probably because it's too strong in PvE, but that is nerfed. Unholy Decay, Violent Plague, damage increased by 15%. This is not applied to PvP. Epidemic got increased by 12%. This is not going to affect PvP at all, because people are not playing with Epidemic right now, and I don't think they will be playing with that in the future, or at least it will not be pressed. I think Death Call right now is way too strong to press anything else. Festering Strike, damage increased by 20%, and now nobody, like everyone is panicking. Oh my god, Unholy Decay got a buff for PvP. Oh my god, Festering Strike, what it is. Festering Strike is this. Strike for 140% of attack power, but it is physical, so it is not affected by mastery, and just infects the target with 2 or 3 festering wounds. And then you have a festering wound where you can actually pop it in PvP with Clouding Shadows or Scorch Strike. So overall, it's not going to give you like insane damage as well. It just is going to do some good damage, but it is not like nowhere near as scary as other abilities from Unholy Decays. You're not going to die because of Festering Strike anyways. This is a builder. This is like the purest builder there is for Unholy Decay right now. Festering Wound got increased for PvE, but not for PvP. For PvP, you have other modifiers, so this is not going to affect you. Ghoul Sweeping Clouds, damage increased by 15%. This is going to add more damage on the pets, but I don't think you're going to play a pet build anytime soon, because they have to buff way more to make it more something you want to build for. Demon Hunter got significant nerfs after the nerfs from past week about Chaotic Disposition, which is the randomness that you had with one-shots. Now they're affecting consistent damage and consistent button presses. Like for example, Rush could actually crit and hit for a lot, so that is nerfed for 12%, so that's going to be noticeable. Immolation Aura is, I think, top 2 or top 3 damage done if you're building around your usual builds. So this is going to be affecting quite a lot, but again, it's consistent pad damage, so I don't think it's going to destroy the spec. I don't think you're going to feel the difference while you're playing arenas, but you will feel the difference on the pad damage, and they might be a bit lower on the damage meters, but that's it. And Fel Barrage got reduced again by 12%, so there is a world where you're not playing Fel Barrage anymore, because it got reduced multiple times. But we'll have to see if it's going to be significant or not. Fix an issue with talent into a fire inside that costs any cost of Immolation Aura beyond the first do not enforce its intended GCDs. I don't know how much it affects for me, but I don't think it's like game breaking. But these 3 are going to affect a lot, but it's not. Again, I don't think the strength of Demon Hunter is purely the damage done. I think it's a combination of everything, like the CC, the micro CC, the glimpse that you can actually like escape a lot of stuff if you're playing very well. Metamorphosis go, yes, you get rooted and you're going to get like peeled away, but I don't think, like, again, this is going to change your consistent damage. You're going to feel the pad damage and you're on the damage meters, but rarely you're dying because of Fel Rush, or rarely you're going to die because of Immolation Aura being like so overwhelming. And Fel Barrage, it is a lot of damage, but let's not forget, it is still pad damage though. I mean, in the sense where you're not going to get critted by 100k by Fel Barrage, but it is also not the intent of the spell anyway, so there is a world where people are not playing Fel Barrage anymore. I do think it's free damage though, so maybe that's why people are playing it right now. But yeah, that's it. Restoration Druid, Ferocious Bite 20% reduced in PvE, not in PvP. Rip also as well, 15%, but not in PvP. Rake decreased by 10% and Shred by 10%. To be honest, right now, Restoration Druids, if you want to play very aggressive, you're going to go Boomkin, and you're spamming Rafts, Star Surges, and you can actually land some kills because of that. The issue is you're going to get interrupted on nature and you cannot do anything. So you can also do starfires, but that's a bit slower, especially if you don't have haste. But in 2v2 you can play more of a feral affinity build where you're trying to bleed out your enemies with rake, rips, you're doing some bites, and you can do some good damage, but I think overall it's not going to affect the power level of a restoration druid, at least not this. Devastation Evoker got 5% increase in damage, so that's going to be noticeable, and in my books they already do a lot of damage, so we'll have to see what it's going to affect. You get also a bit more defensives with leech and also a bit more stamina. Beast Mastery got nerfed on the 4-piece. I've heard, again, people are saying that it's because of that BM Hunter has a lot of damage. That is not true. It is the first week where you could have 4 set in PvP. If you're lucky. For example, I am not lucky. I still have only 2 set. I can have a 3rd set, but I wait for the 4th set to be here to be making it. The damage is noticeable. Don't get me wrong, it's very strong, but it's not making BM Hunter any lower on the rating in my books. I think it's still free damage. It's something you're going to get anyways, and I believe the damage is not always the only thing that BM Hunter has it for itself. I think the CC, the kiting potential, you can play Freedom on a 22-second CD, which is also very strong versus specific specs. You kill casters, which in my books, caster meta is real. I made a video about it. I think personally we are in the caster meta, not really on melee meta, but if you discount DH and DK, those are the 2 outliers, but except that, I don't think it's a melee meta. So I do feel like BM Hunter is still going to be very strong, and people are like sleeping on it and still sleeping on it. Monks got a few nerfs, especially mistweavers, on their output. More noticeably, the invigorating mist, essence font, although you're not going to cast it way that often in PvP, but those are nerfs, so it's going to be noticeable, especially now reduces the mana cost of spells by 25% instead of 50%. Mistweavers actually get pretty quickly, so I think this is going to be pretty noticeable for you guys. Not on output, but there is something else that is going to come up in PvP where you're going to feel on output wise. Windwalkers got a buff on 6% of all ability damage. Now, guys, if you're a Windwalker player, do you feel you're missing damage whenever you're like eliminating someone in PvP? Like, do you feel you're doing no damage? Because it could be. I feel like you're not really missing any damage. I think the problems are like somewhere else, but that's my opinion again. I think also it's kind of stupid that you're like playing only one build, because there is only one build for you guys, so that's also a bit dumb. But at the end of the day, I don't know if they're going to rework something mid-patch. It could be like 10.2.5 maybe. But right now, this is going to be increasing. Again, it's going to be very scary, while a Serenity, or even outside of Serenity, you could do some good Rising Sun kicks, but this is going to be noticeable. So Crusader Strike and Hammer of Wrath got a buff to the mana and to the damage done. So they might maybe make you want to play Avenging Crusader. Now, I want to test it. I do feel like currently the throughput of Avenging Crusader is not there, but that might be my opinion. Again, also costing 3 holy powers. You have to play way more aggressive, and I don't know if it's very worth it, but I want to give it a shot. Also, the mana cost being so low, it could be interesting to play like this to actually have a lot of mana at the end of the game. But we'll have to see how big those impacts are. Again, your Avenging Crusader heals for damage done, so that's why it's going to be quite interesting to see what they want to make Holy Paladins go in PvP. In PvE, I know this is going to be probably very standard, but in PvP, normally the caster Holy Paladin is more in line with what is currently playing in World of Warcraft. Discipline Priest, healing done and damage done reduced by 3%. I don't think it's very noticeable. It's going to change something, but it's not going to change like everything. I don't think Discipline Priest is strong because of that. You might play a bit more Mastery to compensate anyways. All healing increased by 4% for Holy Priest. That's going to be maybe noticeable after the buffs from 6% from yesterweek. Yeah, we'll have to see. Burning Vehemence got a buff on the AoE proportion. I don't think it's going to be noticeable in PvP. And 2-piece is going to get a buff. Again, we'll have to see if it's going to be noticeable in PvP. This is going to be very mild buffs. It's not going to change anything to you guys, in my opinion. Maybe the throughput, but I don't think throughput is the only problem for Holy Priest. I think it's a combination of everything. Assassination Rogue got a nerf on Kingsbane, damage reduced by 50%. It's not like out of the blue. Kingsbane does a lot of damage. They can actually one-shot pretty much with 300k Kingsbane with a mastery stacking and doing cold blood. That is happening. Now, I do feel a bit weird out that they nerfed blindside in PvP. I feel like blindside is something that is not really game breaking. I do feel like in PvE maybe it could be game breaking, but in PvP it is not. So I feel like this is a bit unfortunate, but at the end of the day, they're trying to balance the game however they feel fit. And right now, I do feel like assassination is not a problem in PvP, but that would be my take. Restoration Shaman got a buff on their mana. Chain Lightning, Acid Rain. This is pretty much Mythic Plus kind of things, right? By the way, it's AoE, so it's Mythic Plus pretty much. Death Knight, Unholy Decay, Rotten's Touch, effectiveness reduced by 40% in PvP combat. Again, I play Unholy Decay, I know how big this nerf is. If you do not know what this nerf is, this is the Rotten Touch talent. It is causing Sudden Doom, causing your next death goal to also increase your Clawing Shadows, which you're all playing, Clawing Shadows. Damaging against the target by 50% for 10 seconds. And if you're like adding it up with Reaper, which is also an increase on damage for people that are below 35%, it can make your Clawing Shadow actually hit, by the way, 140k, for example, if you're like full mastery and you have everything stacked up. You have all the buffs on yourself. You can do some 140k Clawing Shadows plus your Festering Wounds proc. And then you have your Death Glow procs with the Festering Wounds as well. So you're screwed. If you get a Sudden Doom proc, it's like a casino. You're going to do a lot of damage. But this is going to get nerfed by 40%. So 50% will be becoming around. Again, my maths, I'm not really counting too much. I think 36% or 32%, something like that in the region. I'm not really counting it, but it's going to be reduced by half pretty much. So this is going to be noticeable. I don't think it's going to be game breaking because I do feel like the damage comes from Death Goal and proccing Festering Wounds, and Clawing Shadows is also there to do a lot of damage. But again, it's a combination of those two. So as long as Death Goal is untouched, it will make it okay for Unholy Decay to exist. I think also in the meta kind of dictates for Unholy Decay to be good. So right now I feel like with all the nerfs that they got in total, I do feel like it's still very strong, and it got compensated more or less, although I think it's very little with Festering Strike, but nobody's really spamming Festering Strike as well. So again, you have to see for yourself. So Restoration Druid got a nerf on their 4-piece, which is impressive that it was 100% in PvP combat, but it's 50% now, so they reduced it as the normal norm. It's still going to heal for a lot. It's still a good 4-set, so people are going to play it. But I think the most interesting nerf is the Mastery of Harmony is now reduced by 15%. So let's say you get stacked with full HOTS, and you have 100% mastery because you have all the HOTS on your target, plus you're also like stacking mastery on your spec. It will be becoming 85% increased healing. It's not going to be game breaking. I don't think it's going to make your Resto Druid become instantly bad because it's not 15%. It's reduced by the amount of mastery you have. I would say at that moment. So if you have 50% mastery because of like the stacking of mastery you get from HOTS, it will be reduced 15% from 50%. So it's not going to be 35%, but it's going to be 15% from 50%. So again, it's relative. It's not going to be game breaking in my opinion. I think again they should rework mastery in this game. I already said everyone wants to actually reach and build mastery if they have like a good mastery. I would say for their spec, they're going to build mastery regardless to get as much damage or healing as possible. So I think they should rework it to somehow be less effective, but also baked into the specs. So people can actually choose between haste, crit, and mastery. Often than not, if your mastery is very good, you want to stack it. You don't want to get crit, you don't want to get haste. And that's something that I think, personally, I don't really like in World of Warcraft. Right now, I think there are a few specs which I think are quite good at their design. For example, Arms Warrior, you can build Mastery, you can build Haste, and you can build Crit, and they will all three feel not equally good, but they are going to be equally viable. While, for example, a resto druid, if you're building full haste, you're going to have a miserable time. If you're building crit, it's going to be like even worse. So you really want to go mastery. And for example, even feral druids, if you're not going mastery, you're screwing yourself with your damage. Although haste feral druid feels infinitely better, the damage is not there, so you're going to go full mastery. And I can say the same for subtlety. I can say the same for, I don't know, man. Mistweaving monks, you want to play full mastery. If you're playing a mistweaver, you want to play full haste, for example. That's an okay design, I guess, because you have choice. But again, I feel like they should do something about that. Survival hunter, marksmanship hunter, excuse me. Survival of the fittest now reduces damage taken by an additional 10% in PvP combat. It is 40% then. So I think if I go marksmanship hunter, again, it really depends on the thingy. It will be 50%. Excuse me. So if you take survival of the fittest, it will be 20%. It will turn into a 30% damage reduction. So it could be interesting to play around reduce the cooldown of survival of the fittest. But I think the main problem is that having a 50% damage reduction is probably better. So you're going to play with nature's endurance. It's going to be quite interesting to play around. Acceleration will also heal for 40% instead of 30%. And you can also buff it with rejuvenating winds. So I guess it's going to be quite interesting to survive. But I feel weird because why are you not buffing survival as well? Because I think survival has also some problems with surviving. And the pun is intended. And it is also not intended. I really feel like they should get a buff for that. So please buff survival hunter. Monks, they got a nerf. Like mistweaver monks got a nerf on their survivability on everything. Also nerf on the 2 set. This is going to be noticeable for mistweavers and mistweavers, by the way. This is going to be a big nerf. 10% is a big nerf, especially on healing received. Damage reduction to be higher than intended in PvP combat has been fixed, so it will be less. But also healing elixir now heals for 10% instead of 20%. Yulon got now 1% instead of 2%. Dampen harm is no longer increasing PvP combat, so it was 25%. Now it's going to be the lowest, I think. I don't know what the lowest is for mistweaver. Let's see. So if it's unaffected, where is it? Dampen harm. It will normally it should be 25% reduce all damage you take, and now it's going to be not reduced. I mean, it was buffed in PvP. Now it's going to be the same for everyone. It's going to be 20%. I don't think that's going to be that game breaking though. I read it wrong, but I think it's not going to be game breaking. So it's going to be now 20%. Fortifying brew damage reduction is no longer increased in PvP combat. That is big actually. Fortifying brew, you're giving yourself actually. Okay, I can't even see, man. It's not really written, but whatever. I think it was 15%, but I might be mistaken. So now it's no longer increased, so it is what it is. Diffuse magic now reduces magic taken by 40%. I do feel like mistweaver are now very killable. I think fist weaving is now suicide pretty much if you want to play that. So good luck if you want to play fist weaving, because now you're going to be a target, in my opinion. If I'm a arms warrior, I'm outside of your blue thingy, then I'm going to just stormbolt you and I'm going to destroy your life. But that's my opinion again. Discipline priest, Amir foresight bonus has been now increased to 100% instead of 50%. It's good if you're playing Shadow Covenant. It's not good if you're not playing Shadow Covenant. I personally think Smite is not that bad. I think people say that it's bad, but I don't think it's that bad. I do feel like, again, yes, if you want to improve Disc Priest, it would be via Penance or via something else. But it's alright foresight, I guess. I feel like it depends on your playstyle. If your playstyle is like 2v2, I think foresight is going to be very strong. I think if you're playing Soul Shuffle, the foresight is not going to be that relevant because you don't have that much time to actually cast those spells that much. And Shaman got a nerf on their Taurus Invocation, so the RNG, not the really RNG, but the playstyle around Ascendance and the RNG behind it. But this is the normal lightning bolt, so all lightning bolts is going to be reduced by 10%. So it makes me think, why would you take Tormod's Invocation now? Because I feel like since you get a unnerf on Elemental Blast, you could play around Elemental Blast now. Lava Lash got a buff on 12% on their damage, so that's actually very interesting as well. And in general, Stormweaver is also going to get a buff by 150% instead of 100%, so it's going to be interesting to play around as a PvP talent. I think the issue from Enhancement Shaman is that they have too many good PvP talents, so it's very difficult to actually like put Stormweaver in one of these spots. But understandably, if you want to play that, you can play that. I think the Lava Lash build could be coming back with Elemental Blast, but it really depends on people performing on it. I think the main issue with Lava Lash is they nerfed the other talents from Lava Lash, and that it has a triple down effect. But if they buff Lava Lash, the base damage, it could be actually very interesting to see what they're going to do with it. Elemental Blast got a now reduced by 60%. Was 50. This is a nerf, by the way, if you're counting it. It's making Lava Burst the damage more reduced than what we had. So it's strong. Elemental Shaman is very strong, especially the 4-set. I don't think it's game breaking. I still think you're still going to play 4-set. Although I think the 2-set is not that good in PvP. The 4-set is better. So we'll have to see and look what is going to happen with that. Restoration Druid. Amir Drizzle 2-set bonus effectiveness no longer reduced in PvP combat, so that's going to make Restoration Shaman very, very desirable. I think the 2-set is actually very strong, in my opinion. Rogue, Subtlety Rogue, Shadow Blaze, extra shadow damage reduced by to 15% instead of 20% in PvP combat. And Thieves Bargain is now 20%, so it's going to be a longer CD for Shadow Blades, a longer CD for Vanish, and I think I'm missing something. I don't know what, but so those two are for sure going to get reduced. I want to show you guys, of course, because then we have like the correct things going on. So this Thieves Bargain, yeah, Vanish and Faint. So it will be 20% instead of 33%. I think Faint is also a big reason why Subtlety Rogue cannot really die. If you're using it correctly, you're effectively reducing a lot of damage. And Vanish being like up that often is very annoying to have them as a target. But that is going to actually increase your likelihood of them being dead. So I think it's going to be interesting. Demonology Warlock got a few nerfs, but also some buffs, which is weird. So Fell Obelisk now increases attack and cast speed by 10% instead of 20%. Master Summoner reduces the cast time of Called, Restalker, Summon, whatever, 15% instead of 20%. Antoran Armaments now increase your Felguard's damage by 10% instead of 20%. So there is a world where you're not playing with this talent, by the way. Doombrand from the original 2-piece set bonus is now unbespellable. This is going to be helping Demonology Warlock for not getting dispelled on Doombrand, so you can have your Doomguard and do more damage. So it's going to be interesting. The debuff duration reduction from Doombrand from the original is no longer reduced in PvP. This is a nerf. It's actually a bug fix, to be honest. So the debuff duration is going to be longer, so it means that you have your burst on a longer duration. Like it's going to happen in another timeline, I would say, whenever you're fighting. It's not going to happen sooner, so you will have more damage. So it's going to reduce your damage overall, by the way. And 2-piece and 4-piece are now reduced by 40% instead of 50%, so that's a buff to the damage. Destruction Warlock Flame Rift damage from the Armored Resolve 4-piece set bonus is no longer reduced in PvP combat, so that's going to be a buff overall because it was a low damage 4-set. So now it's going to be very interesting to play a Destruction Warlock for the 4-piece. Fury Warrior Rampage now deals 40% additional damage in PvP, so that's going to be again a buff to Rampage. And I don't know, it will be very big. I don't think you want to play Annihilator now. You want to really play with biggest Rampage possible, so do play with that. Execute also more damage, 50% instead of 40%, so it's going to be very worth to press Execute. Please do press it. I think it's going to be adding you way more damage. Crushing Blow no longer deals reduced damage in PvP. It was 20% reduction. It's very weird that they got it still live, but right now it's going to be gone, so it's going to make Crushing Blow actually hit for a lot. Raging Blow also got an increase of 15%, so it's going to be worth it to press it as well. Overall, Annihilator, I don't think that's going to be very noticeable. I don't play Annihilator, I don't like it, and I do like those 4 other changes. Now, is it going to make Fury Warrior that much better? It will depend, but I will be testing it, and I will make a Soul Shuffle tier list update once I'm done with it. So again, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you're not going to panic for nothing, because sometimes you do panic for nothing, guys. Sometimes the buffs or the nerfs are not that big. I do feel like Fury Warriors got a pretty big buff, but I don't think it's like the whole problem of Fury Warrior. I think it's a combination of all the things together. Overall, I think DK got something bad for them now, so that's good, but it's not going to make them from S tier to C tier from just one nerf, by the way. Marksmanship Hunter, I think that's going to help them, although I think the Feign Death Dispel is probably the most impactful thing that is going to get gotten removed in 10.2. So again, we'll have to see and test all those changes. But again, thank you for watching this video. Really appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet, and we will catch each other probably very soon in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.